anxiety caused by private speech at foundation universities in Turkey. Um, yeah, the contents, the reason for this study, significance of this study, viewpoints of the main scholars of this study, research question, research method, and the study data analysis, outcome of the study and discussion and conclusion. These are the parts. Um, so the reason for this study, my own experience, the experience that I myself had as a language learner in this EFL environment, and my students' experience of having, problem communicating, and yeah, I will talk about it later, and um, and also the rejection to be cooperative, which had cultural reason, and the significance of the study. Most of the studies done on this issue, I mean, anxiety, um, they are not based on, for example, studies by, you know, Ainsank and Lantolf and Brown. You know, actually they worked on social cultural factors and these things, but mine is based on Vygotsky's. I mean, I tried to relate it to um, ELT, I mean, EFL learners' anxiety. And okay, and at foundations universities, actually. So yeah, the gist of what Ellen Horwitz says is she takes foreign language anxiety as a distinct complex construct, which is experienced by language learners. And another reason which causes anxiety, foreign language anxiety, is perfectionism. They're as long as they do not get the feel that they are to produce a perfect response or something, whether written or spoken, they prefer to be quiet, and this adds to their anxiety rate. And but Vygotsky, but the way he looks at actually, I mean, let's take Vygotsky's issue. I mean, um, um, he was the one of the I mean the main pioneers of developmental psychology. Um, we actually considered learning happens on two levels: social level and individual level. And development happened as a result of connection between those individual level mind and the connection with the outside. And also he believed there's a strong link between thought and speech, and which a language acts as a thought regulator. And these are the actually some of the factors. I mean, the concepts of the main concepts of his theory, social cultural theory: mediation, scaffolding, regulation, and internalization. Yeah, and some viewpoints of, you know, I mean, regarding that, I mean, main scholars of the study, Landtov is one of the major one, because he's the one who extended Vygotsky's work to ELT, and um, and he believed that principal cognitive activity happens through interaction within social and material environment. And and also the second major issue that he mentioned in his article was the feedback helps to move from auto-regulation to self-regulation, and this leads to be dialogically graduated. What it means, I mean, he actually believes that at first, as a language learner, we by getting the help of a more knowledgeable other, which who can be a teacher, um, if that person is taken as an auto regulator, and by the help of this person, by the help of the more knowledgeable other, language learner um, tries to self-regulate himself. And when we say self-regulation, we mean that I mean he means that at a point, by practice or something, a scaffolding, learners arrive at a point that they internalize what they have been given by the autoregulator. So the same terms, autoregulation and self-regulation, was actually for the first time introduced by Vygotsky, and he tried to relate this to language by this quick example that I mentioned. And another point he touches on is overabundance of assistance itself can nosedive students' inclination to become truly self-regulated by deterring their gain of self-confidence, freed from anxiety. Um, so, I mean, as long as this, I mean, scaffolding, I mean, given Vygotsky's work, given to the student, if as long as it helps student, I mean, move from zone of comfort and to the zone of free movement, that suffices. But that's the point where you know, as an EFL as an EFL teacher, we have to stop it. But when we go further, in fact, this lowers students' self-confidence. Just you have got time limitation, but so I have to move a bit fast. These are the research questions. Is there any statistically significant connection between private speech and EFL learners' anxiety at foundation university? The second, any difference between the mean rate of private speech impact on EFL learners' anxiety and the male ones, the gender issue. And the third one, is there any relationship between private speech and the students' achievement? Yeah, the research method, this is the one, a mixed type, and the data collection instrument, FLCAS by Horowitz was used, but a new dimension was defined to this questionnaire, and this was administered end of track exam, SPSS version, to analyze the data. And the demographic data, we had 370 students. They were downsized to 273 for the reasons mentioned here. Age groups, prep students 18 to 19, and they were in the program of 4 tracks. That's the way it is in Turkey. It happens in Turkey. The procedures, we analyze the data. First of all, we have to define and designate PS, private speech, dimension for foreign language classroom anxiety scale of Horowitz. And the second stage was the procedures to answer research questions. So to answer this one, to do this one, I will explain this one. But the second one, I mean, the procedure to answer research questions, TS, yeah, I will explain it. But first of all, the procedures we defined and designated private speech dimensions for FLCAS. These are the procedures. For the time limit, I couldn't put all the you know, tables here, but just selective, I put the gist of it here. You know, the first, I mean, factor analysis was conducted, administered, and the second stage, reliability testing was administered to check the reliability of the factor analysis. And in the third stage, considering CITC, or corrected item total correlation, the original FLCAS with 33 items was downsized to the one with 29 items to test the impact of, in order to define PS and private speech fact in that. And labeling each factor. After this, we had to label the factor, but based on the studies, first of all, I mean, by the help of the SPSS and plus the studies, relevant studies, managed to label that factor in FLCAS, and also this one is the one used to perform all SPSS operations in order to answer all questions. Yeah, here just, you know, this is table 1.4, but, you know, I couldn't put all three, the previous tables here for the time limit. So this is the loading after, you know, factor analysis. and applying reliability testing, I obtained the loading is within the acceptable rates. Here, as you see, the loading and in fact, FLCAS had 33 items, but here um, we downsized it to 29, but out of these 29, only 18 of them was chosen to be used as, for private speech. How did we decide on that, those 18 as private speech? One of them, so the grouping was done by SPSS via the procedures I just quickly mentioned. And the second one was based on the studies. For example, I read about private speech, and for example, by some of the scholars, and then and I tried to and I examined every single question item of FLCAS, and then decided with on it. So private speech is taken as a self-oriented, given Pavlenko and Lantov, based on Vygotsky's implicature, as a self-oriented, covert speech is a means helping learners move from other or more knowledgeable other or object regulation to self-regulation. This is exactly what, this is exactly similar to the one mentioned by Vygotsky, and also the same that repeated by Lantov. Technically put, private speech constitutes a major link between social interpersonal and intrapersonal phenomenon. Interpersonal phenomenon, the thought side, and social interpersonal, language itself for the media, for means of communicating. Lantov, mentioned private speech, in private speech, as a private speech, we ask ourselves questions as learners, answer questions, answer these questions, tell ourselves to interrupt a particular activity, excuse me, tell ourselves we are wrong or that we cannot do something. So it's about, in fact, in one way or another, it's like Pandura's self-efficacy term, self-efficacy or judgmental idea of yourself. And Clement and Durrani, they mentioned, in fact, private speech is taken as an individual judging her or his skill in order to achieve a specific goal, and insufficiency or self-efficiency, lack of self-efficiency, as put by Oxford and Sherin, are taken and evidenced by them to be actually as a self-efficacy issue. In other words, self-efficacy refers to the subjective judgment of one's capability. So just to summarize, so given these studies and examining every single, those 18 items grouped by SPSS, so these were labeled as private speech. For example, one of the question number 7 in that questionnaire is like this: I keep thinking that the other students are better at language than I am. And so this was taken as a, as a private speech. So we did this, just considering every single of those 18 question items. And procedures to answer research questions. This is one of them. T-test to answer question number 2. Any significant difference between the mean rate private speech impact on female learners, anxiety, and the males one. So gender issue. Is there, whether there is any significant difference between the rate of anxiety experienced by male or female as imposed, via private speech. This is the actually the measures we got, the number of attendance. The mean score, as you see, is almost similar for both genders, males and females. Standard deviation is within the acceptable range, but when you look at the t-value, it's, as you see, it is within the acceptable range. I mean, 0.726 and 0.351 for as p-value, which is within the significant range. So, and the second one, administering post hoc test, we tried to answer question number one, which said, in which we tried to inquire any statistically significant link between, private speech and EFL learners' anxiety. So this is the F value we got and the P value, which is within the significant rate. So one way ANOVA was administered to get an F value to see if any significant difference. And also when, for example, the p-value is at as given knob, if it is the p-value is at a very small significance level like 0, it becomes clear that there is a crucial relationship between social cultural factor on the left, which is private speech, and the anxiety on the other. So given this, question number one was, supported. And running both one-way ANOVA and a correlation test, we could answer question number 3, which inquired if there was any potential link between social cultural factor and the student's achievement. This is the these are the measures we got. Private speech, this is total anxiety rate. If you look at the rates, they're within the acceptable range. The minus, as you all know, so this indicates that there is this negative correlation between, PS, private speech, and students' achievement. And this is the description of what I just talked about. The minus statistics for the correlation, points out to the probability of negative or downward linearship. And okay. So by this helped us defend question number 3, which hypothesized the probability of a link between sociocultural factors and this factor, private speech, and students' achievement. Outcome of the study and discussion, inquiring both if there is any potential link between this and achievement. So if we discuss this, referring to what we displayed, so there was a significant confluent display between the interplay between the private speech and exam scores holding recognizable values. These findings, this finding is in line with the studies already done by Lambert and Gardner, as well as Clement, Gardner, and Smythe on confluent link between attitude, motivation, cluster, the social cultural factor, given Vygotsky's social cultural theory, and language learning achievement. This in turn supports a positive rapport between them, while studying, perusing other studies by Horwitz, looks quite actually opposite, with the probability of negative relation between anxiety caused by factors such as self-presentation or self-talk. Self-talk or given Vygotsky, private speech. Scrutinizing both any, significant difference between the mean rate of this and private speech, impact on the female and relative to male ones, and potential link between view of a second language in EFL learners' anxiety affecting their language learning. As noticed while scrutinizing the previous table, private speech mean of this and females while holding T values of insignificant difference, it evidenced existence of no significant variation or differences in terms of anxiety. In addition, regarding the P and R values for the private speech, helped shed light on the fact that student self-efficacy, or given Vygotsky's term, private speech of language can impact their language learning by causing anxiety. This is supported by studies done by Landtolf and Thorne, conducted by Landtolf and Thorne, stating that private speech is effective for second language learners learning. It is also in favor of the study by Brooks and Donato, stating that through self-regulatory or attitude, EFL learners can concentrate on language learning better. As for the reasoning evidence by that table on anxiety mean difference in gender, the result, no difference in anxiety rate between males and females, is in line with the researches carried out by Williams and others. Yeah, I think as
And
time.
Mrs. Tosh, I just want to let you know you have 5 minutes left.
5 minutes left. Okay, because you said that I should stop 5 minutes to the end. That's why I paused. Okay. Okay. And the conclusion, if we again go over the questions, this again deduction out of the statistics derived from one way and this. Um, we got in pursuit of the sociocultural theory, Antoine Millet and John Dewey hold that language is a social entity or phenomenon, not separable from the social aspect. These factors can in turn cause anxiety. Further to this, Tobia's three-dimensional model, input, process, output, says any interactional and transactional factors which cause anxiety impacts the process stage, resulting in defective output. And this question, question number 3, as supported, indicates a significant negative connection between private speech and students' scores. The finding is in favor of the results of the studies by Daly and Miller, use their apprehension test together with FLCIS questionnaire. This studies evidence that holding low self-confidence or perception of your second language, here we can take it as private speech, speaking and writing competence results in second language classroom anxiety and second language writing anxiety, ending up in impacting speaking and writing achievement of the foreign language learners negatively, given Cheng, Horwitz, and Charlotte. And taking the sociocultural factor of Vygotsky strengthens the idea that the ill idea of competence and self is the self-efficacy as a building block, a constituent of the private speech affecting learners' anxiety. Or in other terms, students take an ill idea of, his knowledge can affect his can impact his language learning by increasing the anxiety. In addition to this, considering Gardner and McIntyre theory of linguistic insecurity, as well as attitude, motivation, achievement model of Gardner, it becomes apparent that research question 2 and hypothesis 2 are true in nature. So that's all I had to present within this scope of time. Um, if any questions.
Let's see, there are no questions in the chat for you.
Uh, quest. Let me see. No, no question.
All right. Hey, Taj, when did you do your study?
It was actually um, almost uh, almost 2 years ago.
Okay, okay. There's a question. What would you suggest to improve self-efficacy and reduce anxiety?
Self-efficacy and reduce anxiety. Uh, Self-efficacy actually is by increasing the students' autonomy. This can partly help, um, and also by teachers strengthening their self by teachers scaffolding them in the right time. Um, and the second way is the way we are giving feedback. When giving feedback, we should consider the type of personalities they have, whether impulsive or reflective. Again, the way we are giving it should be again in the timely, correct manner, because um, the way we are giving feedback to adults differ from the way we give to young learners, and there are two different centers in the brain. And when the timing is not properly coordinated, this can, for example, this can encourage the wrong part, or maybe does not encourage or the right that center. Um, yeah, these are just the ones I could think of. Yeah, scaffolding and feedback. Because we have, for feedback, we have superior gyrus and inferior gyrus, two centers in the brain which which are actually triggered. Inferior gyrus is for teens, but superior gyrus is for adults. So so sometimes feedback can counteract, discouraging students, lowering their self-confidence and self-efficacy. So this should be considered.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you, Taj.
Yeah, the pleasure was mine. I thank you too for the chance given us to share our ideas.
Oh, no problem. Enjoy having you and listening and learning.
Thank you. Me too. I enjoyed, just being a part of this conference. A little bit actually edgy while presenting, trying to manage the time, and
Yes.
the first
Yes.
time attending this virtual virtual one.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I am going to go in and I am going to, oh, I have to ask you to please stop sharing.
Excuse me.
Oh, to please stop sharing your screen.
Yeah. You mean you mean take it out?
Uh-huh.
Stop
Yeah,
there.
you can just stop sharing. Uh-huh.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
So awesome. So I'm going to stop my recording.